Awesome. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Just a quick note that we are recording this session and a copy of the event will be shared to your Waterloo Ready Learn course within the next week. We think it's important that we start today by acknowledging that the University of Waterloo is on lands that are deeply connected to Indigenous people who are historically lived and who currently live in this territory. These groups include the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Track, the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. We are looking forward to connecting with all of our new Geomatics students today. If there are any parents or supporters joining us today, we want to point out a few resources that are available specifically for you. We know the important role you play in your students' transition, so we encourage you to sign up for our Parent and Supporter monthly newsletter. Here you'll receive great tips and information on supporting your students throughout their first year as a Waterloo Warrior. There will also be a Parent and Supporter live chat that you can attend in August, and we'll put the link in the chat box now for you to find out more. So now for a few housekeeping items. On your right, you will see a chat area. If you aren't already, you can click on the circle with the chat bubble. This is where you can ask any questions that you have for our panelists. You will not have access to audio, so all questions will need to be submitted here through the chat. When asking a question, please make sure that you are submitting questions to all participants, as this will allow everybody to see the question that is being asked. We will compile the questions and our guests will answer them verbally, but in some cases we will also answer them by replying in the chat. We will do our best to get to all of them. So there may be some links for helpful information. Be sure to only click the links that are shared by the Ask Us panelist. If you do have a personal question or you're having a technical issue, you can ask the Ask Us panelist by selecting them in the drop-down menu in the chat feature. So on that note, I think it's about time that we get started, and I'd like to welcome Professor Peter Johnson.
Yeah, hi there. Thanks so much, Hope, and welcome to everyone who's viewing today. So like Hope said, my name is Peter Johnson. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Geography and Environmental Management, and all of my teaching focuses in the geomatics area. So I'm actually the instructor who will be instructing Geog 187, Spatial Data Science, which we'll be having in winter 2020. So that's typically the class that all the geomatics students get to meet each other in. So we've moved that to the winter, so hopefully you can have that experience face-to-face. I also have two senior students here as well. I have Tanvi and Cora. Maybe Tanvi, you can start and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanvi, and I'm a 3B Geomatics student, and I'm doing minor in management studies and specialization in climate change as well. I hope I can answer to all your questions today, and looking forward to connecting with you all. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cora. I am in my 4A term of geomatics. I'm currently on spring term doing everything remotely. I'm also getting two minors, one in urban studies and one in computing technology. I'm also looking forward to answering your questions. Hopefully, I've been in your shoes in first year, and hopefully this is a new year that you'll be experiencing, but we'll be able to help out here.
Awesome, thanks so much. And yeah, no, I can remember both of you in taking Geography 187 various years. So good times. So I have a little slideshow that I'm just going to run through. So I'm just going to share my screen here for a minute. And this is, well, I'll go over it in a minute here. All right. So I've already introduced Tanvi and Cora and myself, but one other really important person that you need to know is Miljana Kovacevic. So she is the academic program advisor for Geomatics. So she is the key linchpin in our department. She's the person who you will want to go see for all sorts of things. So course changes, program changes, any sort of academic administration decision, even just if you want to talk about different options or specializations, switching to different programs, all sorts of things like that, Miljana is the person to go and see. Miljana can't be here right now because she's actually also the advisor for the geography program, and that geography chat is happening right now as well. So, but Miljana, she's a really wonderful person, and she's a great person to talk to about all those different academic issues that you might encounter. Okay, what are we going to be talking about today? These are sort of the main themes that we're going to be covering. I'm going to try and keep this relatively short because I know the key thing here is to answer your questions, right? So I'm going to try and keep my talking to a minimum here. Talk a little bit about some of the differences between high school and university, some of the expectations for you as a Waterloo student, some of the dates, what the course is going to be like, and most importantly, how is 2020 going to be a little bit different, right? We need to admit that up. So a few things that are different in university in general compared to high school. And I like the bottom part of this slide the best, right? So maybe in high school, and not all high schools are the same, some of them are quite different, about 80% of the learning you do is during class time. So when you're sitting in front of the teacher, right? And then a smaller amount of that learning happens outside of the class. In university, this is flipped around. So most of the learning happens independently outside of the classroom. So that can be reviewing the lecture notes before class. It can be doing readings that might be assigned either from a textbook or other sources. It can be doing assignments in a lab or doing group work or different sorts of projects. So because of this switch from expectations of being in class to outside of class, it actually maps pretty well to the online learning environment that we're in right now, where most of your learning is happening outside of a traditional classroom situation. Here's another little chart comparing some of those factors. If you went to an Ontario high school, each high school course had to have 110 hours worth of in-class instruction. At university, that's about 48 hours. Class sizes are a little bit different. The learning environment is much less structured in university, and definitely in Geography 187, that's something that I like to focus on, a less structured environment where students get to experiment with different types of geographic information software and learn things more experientially. Similarly, grades in university can be a little bit different. They tend to be a little bit lower than they were in high school, and that's totally fine. A lot of students get wrapped up with trying to meet the same grades that they had in high school. But remember, there's a whole different set of expectations and pressures here. So I think it's a reasonable assumption that your grades might go down a little bit, and that's okay. For this term in particular, coming up in 2020, what's going to be different? So as you probably already know, your learning is going to be online for the first term. We don't know yet what the winter term is going to bring. Hopefully that's going to be back to our traditional face-to-face style. But if not, we are pretty nimble and we can roll with how things happen. So one decision that the geography department made is that none of our classes are going to include synchronous sessions. So a synchronous session would mean the whole class is showing up at 3 p.m. to listen to a professor talk. So we don't have any of that. It's much more self-paced. So as you go through the class, you can, if you work really well at 7 a.m. in the morning, you can do all your work at 7 a.m. in the morning. If you work better at 9 p.m., you can do all your work at 9 p.m. Assignments still have due dates, so there's still that expectation that you're meeting a deadline. But throughout that week, it's up to you to juggle your different classes, those that might have synchronous sessions and those like the geography courses that are asynchronous. All the material for your courses, most instructors are going to be using Learn, which is our online course management system, and that's sort of your repository for all things course related. It's also a portal through which you can connect with other classmates, your teaching assistants, and your professor as well. So because this is this different style, some of the things might be a little bit different. There might be some more challenges. So meeting different people in your program. So those of you who are here now, this is a great way to start sort of seeing those names and making those connections. The Student Success Office is going to be trying really hard to set up different events as we get closer to the fall, where you can meet the different people in your program. And I'm sure, as our students would say, knowing people in your program who are taking classes at the same time is a pretty key resource for going through those experiences together, right? Understanding when people are working on projects, how did you deal with this? Sharing those sort of shared experiences. So one challenge with the online learning is that because it's asynchronous, there can be a tendency to leave everything to the last minute, right? And this is where having a sort of a strict schedule and really trying to stay on top of your coursework is essential. Okay, so a few Geomatics specific items. This is what your first year is probably going to look like. Of course, so the way that we number our courses at Waterloo is in 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and so on and so forth. So even if you're not in the co-op program, this is the type of structure that we use. So this fall is your 1A term. So the courses that are highlighted in red are courses that we have bulk enrolled everyone into. So these are courses where you don't have any choice. You like for sure are taking these courses. Okay. So Geography 181 is one that I actually helped develop a few years ago as a dedicated online course. So kind of fun to see that one being offered. You do have some choice in different CS courses, different English courses, depending on what your background is already coming into the Geomatics program in those subjects. So we can talk a little bit about the difference between those courses later on. And Tanvi and Cora will probably have some thoughts about that as well. These are the overall course expectations to get your degree. So you need 20 academic units. So in Waterloo, an academic unit is 1 full credit. So that equals 40 courses. So every term you're taking what are called half credits. Some courses are worth 1 credit. So if you were here early on, the course that Tanvi and Cora were talking about, Geography 481, is a fully weighted project, like senior capstone course. So it's worth a little bit more than or twice as much as a regular course. So if you're in the co-op program, you need to do 4 work terms and submit the reports that go along with those as well as professional development or PD courses. Got the averages listed here as well. One thing to note is that in Geomatics, we have something called a special major average, which includes your CS and your math grades. So that needs to be 60%. So looking at all this, one thing that is probably worth noting is that if you're coming close to these averages, you will be notified. And this is a good time to go and talk with Miliana, your academic advisor, to talk about maybe what courses to take, courses that will help boost your average. It's also worthwhile to maybe think about, if you're close to these cutoffs, it's worthwhile to think about maybe taking 3 courses or 4 courses rather than the full 5 courses. Many students will do that. You're still considered full-time for purposes of OSAT if you take 3 courses. It just takes a little bit longer to complete your degree. So it's definitely something that a lot of students take advantage of, taking fewer courses than the full 5. So that's something that we definitely encourage for students who might need a little bit of extra breathing room. You know, maybe they're working part-time or have other volunteer obligations as well. So it can really help to make a little bit of extra space. You also get refunded on a per course basis at Waterloo. So if you only take 4 courses, you only pay for 4 courses. So that is really nice that you get some of that money back from your tuition. Okay, some important dates and other courses. So the last day to add a course is September 21st. The drop with no penalty, and this is called the 100% refund date, is September 28th. So that's the time that you want to decide what courses you're taking for your first term or for any term. So so actually I was a UW student as well, and I can remember shopping around a little bit the first couple of weeks of term for electives, and maybe trying out a couple different courses and then deciding which courses I wanted to take, knowing that there's this drop date a few weeks into term where you can get your money back if you don't end up taking 5 courses. So that is a worthwhile date to remember. We also have other drop dates where there's different penalties. Again, that's something that is worthwhile to go and talk with Miliana about, because as you progress, you don't want to drop a course that's required or a course that's a prereq for a course that you'd be taking, a prerequisite for the course that you'd be taking in second year, unless you really have to. So before you start dropping courses, it's worthwhile to have that early discussion with Miliana to figure out how you can continue to meet your degree requirements, but maybe lighten your workload a little bit. Okay, so as mentioned this year, we're going to be having asynchronous online lectures. Sort of how that's going to work, for most of your courses, there'll be somewhere between 100 to 300 people per class. In order to do this, you really want to make sure that you have a comfortable workspace in your home or your residence or wherever you're living that's conducive to your learning. So a place that's got a really comfortable chair, a quiet environment, no distractions, a place that you can sit down and you can focus on doing work, and make sure that you set yourself time to do that. Professors are going to have online office hours at different times. Some might be available for contact anytime during working hours. Some might say, I'm going to meet with students Wednesday afternoons, book a time. and then we can have a meeting through either WebEx or Microsoft Teams, Skype, something like that. All the labs and tutorials are also asynchronous, so teaching assistants will be available at different times for you to meet, but the materials will be provided for you to work on at your own pace. So the first day of lectures, exciting times, going to be Tuesday, September the 8th. So there's a lot of information that you're going to get, and this is when Learn, our online course management system, becomes available for you to log into and see all your courses there. So what you'll typically get is you'll get probably a welcome video from the professor. You'll get a syllabus, you get an overview of the syllabus as well, and then an introduction. So this is an example of the syllabus or course outline here as well. So this is your document that kind of gives you the outline for what your course is going to be like for the term. It's kind of like a contract in a way, in that it lists things like the assessment that's required, when those due dates are. Obviously, sometimes there's changes to that based on different extenuating circumstances, but this is the thing that you want to take and you want to put this into your calendar just as soon as you can, right? To try and map out your term, to figure out when is assignment 1 due, when is the test, all those different critical things. It also has all the contact information too, so to contact your professor, their email, or their extension to call them, the names of your TAs, and their contact information as well. If there's any required materials, it'll also be listed on here. Just to find information, there's lots of different places to go. So Quest is our student information system. So this is where you do things like enroll for your courses, where you see if you have tuition owing, see what your final grades are. And Portal is sort of a more user-friendly version of Quest. So that's, there should be a link for that somewhere, that you can look at Portal and sort of see your daily schedule and all that sort of other information as well. Email, obviously, when you're connecting with your professor, you want to use your official UW email. The reason why is because sometimes our spam filters will filter out spam emails that come, they're legitimate emails that come from other sources, even things like Gmail. So it's worthwhile to use your UW email address when you're connecting with your TAs or your professors, because we're sure that it gets through. And so make sure that you do that. And then lastly, Learn, that I've already mentioned a little bit. That's your repository for all your online course content. Some professors will run discussion sessions through there as well, post videos, all sorts of material. That's kind of like your online class. Okay, some tips for success. So I have sort of like my own tips, but this is maybe a spot where Tanvi and Cora could also chime in a little bit with some of so first, like more generally, when things get tough, if you're running into issues, balancing your courses or not sure, how to manage things, you definitely need to speak up. So you need to let your professor know. You need to let friends. Miliana is a great place to go to as well. The Student Success Office, counseling services, they're all really wonderful places to go to where people who have navigated this before, right? It's the whole going to university can be a bit overwhelming. So it's worthwhile to get advice from people who have been there before, right? Or people who know the system, people who know how to achieve what it is you want to achieve. So here's a list of all the different places you can go, right? So there are the official people like program advisors. So Miliana for making all sorts of course changes. The Student Success Office, they have all sorts of coaching and different other opportunities. Wellness, things like counseling services. And lastly, we have a really active social life in the faculty environment in general, and also at Waterloo, especially through WAGS, which is the Waterloo Association of Geography Students. And they've been doing a really good job this past spring term, putting things online and having all sorts of interactions online as well. So I don't know, Tanvi and Cora, do you have any comments about the social life, Waterloo, ways to connect with other students?
I definitely, there are, as Professor mentioned, the social club. So there's WAGs for students, and then we also have ESS, which is the Environment Student Society. They, throughout the school year, they host in-person events, and even online. They've recently held an online event where they sent some people some plants, and we did a virtual kind of succulent activity. So going to those kind of clubs or events that get posted and are offered are a good way to meet people to really help with your assignments who are going through the same courses as you.
Cool. Tanvi,
Yeah.
do you have any?
I would like to add on these events, like it's for sure it's gonna be fun, and plus the fact that I have realized it's a great way to connect with people, even not like within your program. You will be able to connect like students from different programs, able to make new friends and learn what other field or courses you can pursue, especially for electives when you will go ahead and see there will be like different kind of electives you will have to choose for your program. So it's a great way to connect and learn.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no better way to get a feel for a course than to ask someone who's taken it before, right? And get their opinion on what they liked or they didn't like, right? Especially for electives. Okay, so ultimately, one thing to look for in any term and in any job and in life, right, is to look for balance, right? Sometimes there's a tendency to think that you can throw hours and hours and hours at a project and you're going to get better results. But that relationship, it's not like a linear relationship between time or effort and success, right? You need to break large assignments and projects down into small chunks and address those things in sort of like small chunks in order to build towards the bigger project. It's also important to have other things to do, to take time away from doing work. It's better to work really hard for an hour and then take a break than to work not that hard for 3 hours, right? You just get burned out by working longer times ineffectively. So research and creativity tells us that, you need that sort of exchange between work and then a break and work and then a break in order to do your best thinking. And it's worthwhile to remember that university is creative work. Even if it's algebra or something like that, this is creative work, right? You're using your brain, you're trying to create new ideas or put new ideas together. And in order to do that, you can't just work 100% of the time, obviously. So students who manage this transition from high school to university, there's a couple sort of like overall keys to success, right? So, connecting with people. We've heard there's different opportunities on campus to connect with people, both in your classes, and if you have a community of interest, there's hundreds, thousands of clubs on campus for students with every kind of interest. There's an anime club, there's all sorts of sports clubs, there's all sorts of like literature clubs and different things like that, right, to connect with. Balancing your schoolwork with your fun time and leisure. Definitely making sure that if you have a question, you find an answer to it. That's one thing that I think students sometimes go for a long time not really knowing the answer to something. And if you have it all planned out and find the answers earlier on, then that will be very helpful. So things like options or specializations, finding out what's required for that earlier on so that you can plan and map out the different courses that you take helps you avoid the situation where you're in your last term and you still need a first year or second year course in order to complete that specialization. Making sure that you access classes and materials. So it's different than attending class because there's no classes to attend, but making sure that you go and you access those materials that are online. Professors may have slides, they might have videos, they might have voice over PowerPoints, all those things. It's easy to watch those and not really watch them, right? Or watch them at like a faster pace and not really understand them. So it's worthwhile to make sure that you access those and read them, listen to them, take notes, try and take the material and not just have it like bounce off you, right? Take it and work with it, try and rewrite it out, talk about it with other people to really help that material sink in and absorb into your brain. Okay. And then also know your course requirements and the different faculty policies, right? So talk to other people around you, your parents or your supporters, to find out about their experiences and different ways that they cope with stress and work. Okay, so now's the point where I get to turn this over to all of you. So I don't know if there are questions that have been populated. I'm gonna my screen here. There we go. So are there any questions? If there's no questions right now at this exact moment, then maybe Tanvi and Cora, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your co-op experiences. Maybe Tanvi, we'll start with you since you're on co-op right now.
So I'm on my third co-op right now. My first co-op was with TD Bank. I worked as an IT business analyst there. And since in Geomatics, we both have environmental courses and CS courses. So the part of tech was really helpful to me. And like while working there, I used to do coding, and we have different courses like as Professor Peter mentioned about CS 115 and 116. Those are the basic courses, and those were really helpful initially. And then my second co-op was with with the library only with University of Waterloo, and I worked as a GIS library assistant there, and it was fun as well. So for the second co-op, it was more into GIS, so it was great experience for me connecting with people from the same background. And now I'm here again with TD Bank. This is my third co-op. I am working as an IT system analyst there, and it's going well. It was really different this time virtually, but it connected really well, and I'm glad I got an opportunity to work with them again, and hopefully this will work well. Thank you.
For me, I've had 4 co-ops so far. And all of them, except for the last few that I've had, have been very different, which is really interesting with geomatics because I've got to find kind of my niche. So my first co-op term, I actually worked in a startup company in Waterloo called Mapton, and they make interior mall maps. So if you ever go to a shopping mall and they have that touchscreen map, like where can I find this store? I got to work for that company, which was really didn't really use a lot of the skills I learned in class, but I was learning how maps and stuff are being applied in the real world out there. And then my second co-op term, I worked for the government of Canada. I worked in Ottawa. Most geography students and geomatics students do have that token 1 government co-op placement, which is a good experience going from a startup environment to a very different federal government job. More recently, I've been working at transportation companies, which is what I found the most interesting. So I worked both 2 different companies in Toronto, and my next co-op term, which will start in September, I'm going to be going back to one of them, which is very exciting. So co-op's a good opportunity to get my foot in the door, and maybe after I graduate, have a full-time position there, maybe.
Yeah, cool. I think that's one of the big benefits to co-op, right? Is that you get to know employers and that employers know you, and it's a much less risky hire to hire someone who they've already been working with for 4 months or longer, right? Definitely, yeah, I know I have a lot of friends who work in the public service, and co-op students are one of the main conduits through which they hire people. Plus, at co-op, you get to know what you like and what you don't like, whether you like working in the private sector or the public sector, nonprofits, startup versus a big established company. You get to have all those experiences in different styles of work. So it's really, no matter where you end up, that allows you to talk a little bit about, different types of workplaces. So there's a couple questions that have come in. The first one is, how do specializations and minors work together? Can you do both? Now I'm gonna stretch back and try and remember this exactly. Cora, you're doing a specialization and a minor. Right?
I'm doing 2 minors. Well,
okay.
A minor and an
the
option.
Right? Okay. Yeah. So typically a minor is, I believe it's half of your credits. So 20 out of your 40 courses are from within like a separate area. So actually, when I was a student, I did I do a minor? No, I did double major. Anyways, you take a certain number of courses within a different unit. So say I wanted to do a minor in history. History has a list of courses. I take those courses within my electives. I get a minor in history. The specializations that we have set up are for geomatics students only. So they're within the Department of Geography and Environmental Management. So you can do a specialization in, I think there's like Earth System Science, or human geography or climate change. So that again, some of the courses that you take for your the geomatics part of your degree will count towards the specialization, but it's a way to sort of direct your electives towards some sort of credential, right? That specialization. The computing technology option is now going to be called the computing option, I think. Changed that a little bit. Is a similar way. So you take a suite of computer science courses that count towards this option. Some of those are required for your geomatics degree. But it's basically a way to take the 20 electives that you have and try and focus them a little bit more into different areas. You can take all those electives and do 10 different topics across the whole university if you wanted to, or you can use them for specializations or minors. So minors are more courses, specializations are fewer, and options are somewhere in between, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
for the computing technology option and computing option for geomatics, at least for my list of courses, you have to take 4 mandatory CS courses, and then to get the option, it was an additional 4, and they were a specific like hierarchy of level, like you need a 1-200, 1-300 level course. So then adding those 4 extra courses gets me my option.
Okay. So I've just pasted the link to the undergraduate calendar for geomatics into the chat, and this is the place to go. So this calendar is for the 2021 year. So this is the calendar through which all incoming students will sort of be under. So this gives the specific requirements for the geomatics program. And then on the left-hand side of the page, it also gives the specializations. So the different types of specializations that you can do as well on there. Okay, so that's a good spot to go to look for what do I need to get a specialization in X? What do I need for an option? All those different types of things. Okay, so next one, how do I connect with my upper class people in geomatics? Cora, Tanvi, what's the best way to do that? I mean,
I would say so it's very interesting. Like each of our classes, obviously the incoming class like Geography 101, the basic courses, but when you go ahead and you have different classes, so the best part is you don't have like the same batch in your class. It's gonna be from different years as well. So you are able to connect with them and you can talk to them about the courses that they are taking. So it's the best way, like you don't have the same batch basically.
I would also say that when we're back on campus, there are many computer labs that where everyone's going, a lot of geomatics or gem students are going to be working on their projects. And you can kind of see over at someone's computer, I'm making my map, and you're like, hey, I think that's an upper year making a way more complex map than me. Feel free to maybe go ask them for some help or ask them, oh, what course is that? So you can talk to people that way. I know in my first year, we would always see the upper years working on more complex than our project, but just asking them for any help or getting to know them, they'll probably be nice and willing to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good student culture that forms around co-op as well. So students who have done, like there's a certain number of co-op jobs that come up. So people who have done that co-op job previously will talk to other junior students who might be applying to that co-op job as well. So, and just one more thing about co-op that I want to make clear is that the co-op jobs that students are applying to in Waterloo, these are jobs that are like exclusively for University of Waterloo students. So you're not competing with students from other universities for those jobs. It's just students within Waterloo. So employers have made those jobs available through the Waterloo co-op process. So when you're applying for jobs, you're just competing against other students at Waterloo. It's not just like you're finding a job online and everyone's got to run around and try and find their own job. And for students who are entering co-op this year, your first co-op term will be after your 2A term. So that will be winter 2022. So got some time to see how things sort of shake out between now and then. Maybe Tanvi and Cora, just I don't see any questions right now, but maybe you could just talk a little bit about the co-op application process, like when you're applying for co-op jobs and the whole interview process and how that works.
So in your 2A term, you get enrolled in, I think it's PD1, which is professional development. And that course gets you prepped for your first round of interviews and your first co-op term. So in that course, they teach you how to write a resume. You have sometimes mock interviews. And then during that term is when you'll start applying on Waterloo Works. There's a list of jobs. You can filter them based on maybe they're looking for geography students, or I'm interested in transportation. I'm going to search for transportation jobs, and then you'll start applying that way. Amy, do you want to add on?
Yeah, that I think that's the main part. And other than that, just make sure that whatever jobs you're applying for, they have whole description and they have like whatever work is required or whatever experience you will get to learn. So they have whole description there. So if you can go through that, it'll be really helpful and it'll like guide you what your upcoming co-op term will be like and if you are interested in that or no. And yeah, that's all I guess.
Yeah. So on campus, we also have the TC building, Tatum.
Tatum Center, yeah.
Tatum Center, and that building is just for interviews mostly. So if you get selected for an interview, they host in-person WebEx calls, phone interviews, and you'll sit in a big room patiently waiting for your name to be called, and then you'll go to your interview. So what's nice about that is that your interviewers, if they're in person, will come to you rather than you having to travel. If it's a job in Toronto, you don't have to travel to Toronto, or in Ottawa, that would probably be a Skype call. So that's a pretty good setup they got.
Yeah.
Okay, so one quick question related to co-op, PD courses. So some of those you take during your school terms, and some of those do you take during your co-op terms?
Yeah, so the first one is the one that we take during our study term. And then after that, so there are 4 PD courses in total. So first one, as I said, it's going to be in during the first study term before your co-op. And then after that, you can continue to take them while you're on co-op.
And they're online via Learn.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's not the same as enrolling in an additional course on top of your regular courses, right? Yeah. And they're not graded. They're just you just have to complete them, right?
Yeah, they are pretty easy. They are basically helpful for your how your work environment will be, what kind of task you can face, right? So they're pretty helpful in that way.
Okay. So one other question that just came in that I don't know the answer to, but looking for this is for a student permit. So a document that will state that you're registered at the University of Waterloo for the student permit. Do you know where to get that? Would that be Quest?
That's on Quest.
On Quest.
I think, I don't know if it's called a permit. I know you need it for maybe from like tax returns and stuff, and it's
Right.
proof of enrollment, and that's
Right.
on Quest, and you would click that, and it's a PDF, and you can customize it to show your courses if you needed it to. I know I printed off mine a few weeks ago for taxing purposes.
Yeah.
And
so I can jump in here a moment.
Sure.
I've provided a link in the chat, and what we have there is the options for the different ways you can get your proof of enrollment. So there is what you mentioned with the on Quest, but if you're looking for a more formal document as well, you can pay $10 to get a document printed by the University of Waterloo on their letterhead.
Awesome, thanks. That is very helpful, I think. Good to know. So another question that came up that I'm glad this one's been asked. So the difference between CS 115 and CS 135. So the question is, don't have much prior knowledge in CS, but inclined towards computing. How difficult is CS 135 compared to 115? If I'm planning to minor in computing, what do you suggest I take, CS 115 or 135? So first off, the choices that you have, if I remember correctly, is you do, so either 115 or 135, and then one of either 116 or 136. So 115 is Introduction to Computer Science 1. 135 is called Designing Functional Programs. So maybe Tanvi and Cora, you've taken some combination of these. You want to talk a little bit about the difference between 115 and 135, first off?
Sure. Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
So I took 115 because when I came from high school, I didn't had like the basic knowledge for CS. So I decided to take CS 115, which is Introduction to Computer Science. And it basically talks about the fundamental of computer science, the basic parts. And we talk about Dr. Racket program. And it's basically a functional definition where we use that application in designing and testing documents. And the other one, CS 135, is kind of advanced CS program. It's called designing functional programming. If you have already experience in CS, so I would recommend go with CS 135. It talks about the elementary programming pattern, and it's more like highly level as compared to CS 115.
So I also took CS 115 in my first year because I had no prior computer science knowledge, and I did okay. And then in your winter term, you have the option of 116 and 136, which I've taken both of because I needed more courses for my minor, and I never took 136. The difference there, 116 was Python, which is very useful for geomatics programming. Often in ArcGIS, the software we use, you can develop scripts, and that uses Python. So that was probably one of the most useful courses I've taken. 136, if I remember, was C+, which is also a useful baseline for coding, but it was more difficult than 116. I'd say it was one of the more difficult courses I've taken. So yeah, if you've had no experience, don't be afraid to take a computing minor, because I had no intention of taking one when I was coming to Waterloo, but I found that I really enjoyed it, and I was using coding in some of my co-op terms, so I decided might as well take more, get that computing option.
Yeah.
Cool. So I was just looking up as well the computing option, and I found a little checklist here. It's from last year. I couldn't find the updated one. It might not be available yet, but this is the checklist for what you would need for the computing option. So some of these courses are required as part of the Geomatics program, and some of them are in addition to. So if you're looking to do the computing option, which is what's open to Geomatics students, there's no computer science minor that's available outside of the Faculty of Mathematics. There used to be, and then a few years ago, the Faculty of Mathematics kind of took that back because it made more sense for students who are math, who might be taking combinatorics and optimization or applied math, to then also do a minor in computer science. So what they did is they made the computing option available to students in arts, students in geomatics, students in science, wherever, who take those courses. The cool thing about geomatics is that a number of those courses are already part of your program, so you're doing them anyways. So it gets you part of the way through to the computing option anyways, and it's quite popular for our students to be taking that. Okay. Any other questions? Give everyone a minute there. Any other questions? What else? We talked about co-op a little bit. What about the adjustment from high school to university? So, Tanvi and Cora, maybe talk a little bit about, because you both came from different high schools, maybe talk a little bit about that transition and what were maybe some of the things that were easy and some of the things that were harder.
For me, one of the things that was easier, I know it's going to be different, everything being online, but when I was living in residence, having that everyone is kind of in the same realm, it was really easy to find new people to talk to, become friends, even if they weren't in my program. And then through that, joining clubs. In first year, I was actually on the soccer team. So I met a whole bunch of girls also in first year, also upper year, who gave me advice on, oh, maybe join this club or do this sport. I also did some intramurals, and that was a good way for me to bring some of this activity that I was so accustomed to in high school into university social life. And then because of taking all these, being on the sports team or joining clubs, finding that balance of time management between my courses and what's fun intramural social life, that was the biggest transition, because I didn't realize how much work was going to be. As Peter mentioned earlier, 80% of our work is independent study work. So finding that balance and different sorry, finding different people in your program to help you with that independent work. So you're not just isolated by yourself. So I know it's going to be difficult this year online, but I'll be joining these online chats to find other people in your program that you can kind of work together on this independent learning.
Yeah, I would like to add on. So being an international student, so I came from India 3 years back, and the culture of high school is really different there. So it was a great big transition for me. But I have to say, like, it's been an amazing journey so far. And so I lived on residence as well during my first year, and we have. So the best part about residence was they have TAs as well. So they take evening tutorials there. If we have any doubts, if we have any concerns, so they help there. And apart from that, as Cora mentioned, we have different clubs we can participate in, and even like I will just ask you everyone that just please make sure you use the office hours, especially professors and TAs. It's pretty helpful. Even if you have any questions, ask your friends, but don't hesitate to ask questions. And it will help you in growing, and it will help in making like your doubts much clearer and better, and you will gain a lot of knowledge, and it will help. Like self-independence is the best part that I have learned so far, because during high school, like most of us are mostly dependent on our parents if we have any issues or anything. But once we are in university, so managing that time between our social life, our friends, and our study especially, so it's a big thing. And so learning how to cope with time management, it will be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice from both of you. I think that's something really important to keep in mind, is that it's going to be different, and that's good, right? This is a really good opportunity to learn a different way of working, and to think of the way that you used to work in high school, and some things are going to be different. There's a core that's going to be the same, but this is learning how to basically adapting is a key part of all of this, right? And that's kind of the great thing about co-op too, for students who are in co-op, is that you then every 4 months you get an opportunity to work in a totally different way with a new group of people. And so being open to that experience and being flexible, I think that's one of the things that most of our students get out of being at Waterloo and being at university in general too. So there's a student residence question here as well. So would it be easier to be in St. Paul's because it's closer to the faculty building? But the Waterloo residences, I assume that's Village 1 and Village 2. Rev, sorry, dating myself there. How difficult is it to get to classes from residences, or is that not an issue? Geographers, can we calculate the most efficient path from residence to the buildings?
It is, I lived in V1 in first year, and it is a non-issue. The campuses are very close to, the residents are very close to campus. And also not all of your courses will be in the faculty building. So sometimes it is even closer, like V1 was closer to the CS building, like distance-wise. So, and depending on what courses, sometimes they're in the faculty building, sometimes they're other places on campus, so it doesn't really matter. But St. Paul's is nice because they do have they have the live-in learning community where a lot of environment students live there and can work together and collaborate on their projects or assignments or get to know other people in the faculty. But distance, it's not an issue.
Even in the winter?
They have actually buses connected. So I would say the walk is better, obviously, because running to class and waiting for a bus, it's going to be an issue, but walking is better. But it's not that far. Actually, I lived in Re, so it's far than V1. But it was a nice walk in the morning. Plus, like since I have experiences, so I would like to give one tip or advice. So whenever you decide your residence, make sure like there's a list of what kind of meal plan is there, what kind of rooms are there, right? So considering all these things are really important. Not only like how far is Rev or V1. So because like each residence has a different atmosphere. Like Rev is more famous for party, and B1. So and St. Paul's, as Cora mentioned, they have learning community, right? So and it's nearer to environment building too. But and they have like each building has like different kind of, some have tutorials, some have like different things. So they have, I think they must have a list of all these things. So just please make sure you check out all these things. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I mean the campus is quite compact actually. Like it's a big campus, but the orientation of the residences to the academic buildings is actually pretty compact. Having a bicycle if you're there in the fall or the spring is really helpful. But you end up, yeah, your courses could be in engineering buildings, like thinking of all the buildings I've taught in. Engineering buildings. I've taught in the math buildings. I've taught in some of the humanities buildings as well. So they can be all over the place.
But it's worth the experience. Yeah.
And
It's gonna be
one thing Peter mentioned, the weather. Luckily for the environment buildings, some of them are actually connected with underground tunnels. So you can go from the environment building almost, I'm trying to think which building you can get to, but you can get pretty far on campus underground. And also there are tunnels connecting through most of the buildings. So you can't get from like the residence underground all the way to your class, but you could get to one part of the school. And then if it's raining or snowing or cold, make your way through those secret tunnels.
Plus, I would like to share the map that we discussed. It's on Portal, so it'll be really helpful.
There's another question about the environment living learning community. I don't know if either of you have more information about that. Student asks, if I live in CMH, can I still join it? I'm not sure what CMH is. That's out of the loop I am in the residence world.
Is CMH the new building? I can't think of where CMH is either. Definitely, you. I don't think you'll be part of the community, but you're not forbidden to go to St. Paul's. So since a lot of environment students do live there, like when I was in first year, I had a lot of friends who were living in St. Paul's, and I would still go over there, talk to those people, maybe if they were in the same classes, work with them. So you're not disassociated just because you're living in a different residence. Like you have the freedom to go over there, join in conversation, meet your classmates in that residence.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity because the living in learning community, it's basically a group of society where students basically from the same program are living together from same faculty. So you will have an opportunity to connect with them, as someone asked earlier as well, how to connect with the upper year students, right? So these all things are a great way to connect with them. So yeah.
Yeah, so in a typical like on-campus term, I think there's a really good sense of community in environment. In environment, and also like across the campus too. And people get, study spaces where they're always studying, whether it's in the environment lounge or in the library. So it'll be something to look forward to for sure. Are there any other questions from the attendees? We have about 5 minutes left, and I have a couple questions for Tanvi and Cora, but if anyone else has any other questions from the new students, now's the time to put them into the chat there so that we can try and answer those before the end of our time. Okay, when can I find the resources for preparing for geomatics? That's a great one. So Learn itself doesn't open until September 8th, but if you wanted to get a head start on that, I can look and see what sort of things you can start looking at before that. The Student Success Office and Environment will have, there you go. Of course, it's all about where with geomatics. So the Student Success Office and the faculty will be rolling out more materials, both for the transition from high school to university and all the logistics, talking about how to sign up and register and verify your fees, all that sort of stuff. And then also preparing for classes as well. A little bit later in August, there's another date. I don't have it at my fingertips right now, for parents or for supporters later in August as well. And then orientation week starts to ramp up as well. So the Environment Student Society takes a really big lead in orientation week. So you'll be getting more information about that in due course. Hopefully that was what you're looking for. If you want some like sample assignments, I can hook you up with that. You can just email me and I can send you some assignments. Maybe, maybe not. Enjoy your summer. Maybe that's the right answer.
Yeah.
Tanvi and Cora, do you have any advice for preparing for geomatics?
One thing I did before first year, it wasn't necessarily studying or any, but I did, an upper year student recommended taking one of my courses early. He recommended I took 271 earlier than most people do. That's because looking forward in your courses, in your undergrad calendar, you'll see that 271 was a prereq for 371, and 371 is a prereq for 471. And then sometimes things get shifted around. Maybe a class is full, or you decided, oh, I want to take this elective, but it clashes, so I have to push something back. So looking at which courses are the most important or mandatory courses for for the program itself or for minors that you're looking into, trying to put those in earlier in case something does happen will prevent, in case you don't want to extend your university degree or you have too many conflicts. I think that really helped me out at the beginning, taking that course early. So I got more room later on to fill in when I started realizing, oh, I want to do a minor in this. I want to do a minor in this. So looking at your courses early and start thinking about what you might want to take and what should go sooner than later.
Yeah, I actually had the same advice, like planning ahead, because initially, while I planned this, so like we can look what courses are available, because every course is not like that. Every course is available in winter, fall, and spring, obviously. So planning ahead what course to take first and what to not, and especially in electives, obviously you will go ahead. So things might change. You will have different perspective for each minor or specialization you want to take. But planning ahead will be a really helpful thing, that at least you have a plan that you want to finish your degree within the time and what courses are available and specifically in what term. And especially one advice I would like to give is so I'm on co-op right now, as I mentioned, so I'm taking one course along with that. So it's really helpful. It's not that hard. This is my first time taking one course with co-op as well. So I think the maximum you can take is 1 credit on your co-op term, depending on your average. And it's really helpful because it'll, like, for example, this the course that I'm doing is Geography 481. It's only offered in spring. So I already planned that I have to take this. So my next spring is booked. So I plan to take this course right now. So in that way, I don't have to worry about like what course to take next summer, or I will be on co-op, or so situation things might get uncertain. So it's always better to plan early.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the calendar that I had sent, that I linked earlier, is definitely worthwhile to check out. There's also, I'm just getting our course offerings here as well, and some of the schedule of course offerings, because like Tanvi said, some courses are only offered certain times of the year. Because we're a three semester institution, sometimes you're not going to be on campus at the time that something's offered. So you want to make sure that you do that. And Cora mentioning the Geog 271 issue is one that the faculty were definitely aware of that. And I think at some point, we're going to start requiring students to take it earlier on so that it doesn't get delayed. I think that's a smart move. Anyway, the link that I just pasted in there goes to our current courses. So you can actually look at course outlines there as well. So for the last few terms, as well as our course schedule for what's going to be coming up. Also on that page, there's the plan requirements as well, and other information about co-op and various other things. Okay. So maybe as we're at 12 o'clock here, just as sort of like a wrap up, Maybe Cora and Tanvi, you could say, like, what's your concluding like message of advice to any first-year students?
My advice would be make sure you are doing well on time management, and please don't hesitate to ask questions. We are always here to help you, to guide you. And secondly, don't be afraid. Never give up. Yeah.
Definitely time management is very important, but also remembering that university experience isn't just about learning. It's also about joining in the community. So joining clubs, joining intramurals, hanging out with people, yes, sometimes it's necessary to have a whole weekend just studying for, a test or working on an assignment, but also finding that time to also go enjoy the nice things in Waterloo, like exploring Waterloo Park, going to Uptown, exploring around campus and what there is to offer is really a key part to having a good university experience.
Awesome. Thank you both. And just one last question that came in, where can I approach the panelists if I have further queries? I just said that if students have any program queries or sort of more general ones, they can email me. I left my email there as well, or Emiliana for very like specific like academic requirement issues, or you can email us both as well for those sorts of things. For student life issues as well, I think I would the orientation is coming up and you're going to be in touch with the ESS, Environment Student Society, and WAGs as well. So there's going to be lots of opportunities to connect with the orientation committee coming up really soon. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining. I think Hope has a few closing words.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining and to everybody who kind of spoke today. So that brings us to an end of our time. Thank you so much for participating. As we mentioned, this session is recorded and will be shared on Waterloo Ready Learn courses. And then just as a reminder for your parents or supporters, be sure to have them sign up to receive the monthly newsletter and tune in to our parent and supporter live chat on August 5th or on August 11th. So that's all from us. Take good care and have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.